11,200 hours. Some say that it does take about 10,000 hours to master something, but this was the total time passed since the release of the Finals Season 1 all the way back in December 2023, leading up to the release date of Season 6. And whilst the Finals hasn't yet mastered the FPS genre, I would argue that there's a lot of mastery that has basically been released since Season 5 and before, including obviously the new weapons that we had, and of course the new cosmetics, and then, not forgetting Banao 2024. I think Banao as a map, this is kind of showing Embark's understanding of how the game has kind of evolved over time in terms of map design, where Banao is obviously in this case a little bit more open, right? It's a little bit more flatter than the other maps too, and it has this kind of less claustrophobic, but the same kind of feeling of like how Las Vegas is in some ways as well. But at the same time, they still keep the real beauty of showing off the real life architecture and kind of style of Banao in real life as well. And what we had today in the teaser for Season 6 is obviously, speaking of map design, we had that new Las Vegas, and it was kind of like considered a rework. I think some people are kind of battling between, is it a reskin or is it a rework? And with some of the images shown in the teaser, it does look like a bit more of a refresh towards that kind of original map, which, it wasn't received well. It had moderate impressions for some people. I personally love Vegas. I think it's a great map, but what they've kind of done here instead is they've made it a lot more open, right? They made it a lot more breathable, a lot more free, and I think this is going to be a really nice positive change for people that experience it as well. Another thing that's obviously going to be in the area for questioning as well is like, hey, is this going to fully replace, the normal Las Vegas that we have? I can't see that happening personally. I think that the current Vegas as it is, still pretty damn cool. Maybe if Embark really think it needs to have that change, then it could replace it. But, it's a bit different, right? Because the original Vegas, you could still see like the streets and the architecture. But in this one, it's kind of like an arena, right? It's like Las Vegas arena type thing in that screenshot that we saw in the trailer. So it's a bit interesting how they flipped on that and how they've kind of gone with an arena style of this instead. And another thing too is people are obviously asking like, hey, Thix, like, where new map this season? I don't think or know this is going to be coming. I mean, and the reason for this, I think, is because a lot of stuff is happening in terms of the background of the game, right? And we'll talk about this later, but again, for private matches and stuff, potentially new maps on Power Shift as well. Obviously, the rework or re-thing of whatever it's called of Las Vegas, and the new weapons and stuff like that too. So in that teaser that we saw, we didn't see any new gadgets, I'm not mistaken. And, we saw some other stuff that we'll break down in the video, but in terms of just the map design right now, whilst we're talking about it, looks like it's just going to be Las Vegas in Season 6. And obviously, I'm assuming as well that these are going to be highlighting the new sponsors this season as well. So if you don't know, we actually have Ospoos as a sponsor, which is crazy. I was a bit surprised about this because originally I was kind of saying that I didn't think Ospoos would ever be a sponsor in the finals in terms of selections because, first of all, it's insanely popular. But second of all, Ospoos sponsors the entire game show, right? Like, you have other sponsors in the finals that sponsor specific parts. They build and develop specific parts of the lore in the game. But hey, Ospoos is apparently going to be a sponsor. Then again, you now have Alpha Actor, and this is actually a super sick kind of like military tech weapons kind of like sponsor. Also having a bit of like the old-fashioned kind of tech in there as well, with some of the things that we saw in the trailers. That's also amazing. And then Engimo are making their return, which is also surprising as well. So a lot of the Engimo Giga Chads I called you guys in Season 4 are going to be rejoicing as well, and potentially they might have the similar thing, which if you were Engimo in Season 4, you have the option to have that extension and extend your sponsorship onwards, whereas Assault had the similar thing where Assault was in Season 4 and Season 5. We had a bit like of an extension thing too, which is actually, I thought was pretty damn cool. So we'll see if that does happen as well for Engimo. But, thanks to the trailer as well. I think it was the trailer was the teaser, okay, showing off some absolutely beautiful sections of the map as well. So I'm very excited to see and play on the new Las Vegas. As we leave Season 5, I would like to kind of talk about some of my favorite things introduced in Season 5. I think we can all agree that the additions of building onto certain things, like for example in the sky when you can see like your player stats and like the highlighted player, actually super sick, like the skyline projection. It was really cool just kind of highlighting the players that would like stand out in the match, or even in the billboards as well during the arena too. And the thing is, people ask me like, Thix, how you've been playing this game now for over a year, like how are you still excited about the finals? It's things like this, it's these small things which are added over seasons that really just kind of keep the future of the finals bright for the in-game universe, and obviously for the map design too. So again, I can only give props to the map design. Now obviously we're going to speak about the weapons, okay? And then if you don't know, obviously we had the Cerberus added on medium, which originally the Cerberus was actually a weapon which is quite weak, and because before this release of Season 5, there was a lot of controversy around the model 1887. Again, people were kind of saying, the model's a bit too strong, they should nerf it. Other people were saying that they shouldn't think that it should be nerfed. But again, it's like kind of that battle again between competitive and casual players, right? You have that 50-50 between them. So Season 5 hits and the Cerberus releases, and it was a little bit weaker. I think people were still kind of more interested in the model over that sense, and I think that the developers realized that as well. They noticed that the count of like the new weapons being added, the Cerberus was way lower than everything else. And then what happened was that the model got nerfed so hard and the Cerberus got buffed so hard is that they switched positions. Now a lot of people are using the Cerberus instead of the model, and people are using the model less, right? Which is, again, it's kind of funny how it switches. I don't see a problem with it initially, right? Because at the time I was just thinking, well, this is pretty simple. The developers want more players to test out the Cerberus so that they can have more data, so then they can nerf it and bring it back in line. Now, again, this is up to you guys. I'm not saying that anything should be nerfed or adjusted in terms of these new weapons, but, what do you guys think, right? Because right now the Cerberus can currently one-shot lights from a close range as well with that burn effect on top. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like not everyone can agree on any single position in the finals, right? I think because we all have our own biases, and that just makes complete sense that we have our own biases and our own ways that we view the game. But, aside from the balancing of the weapon for a second, I just want to say that the burn effect, just in terms of stylistic stuff, is super sick, and I think that it's a really cool addition, which, again, keeps that uniqueness of the arsenal being added into the finals as well. So, really good job there for the devs for adding that weapon in. Finally, obviously, we had the Shack, okay? The Big Shack is what I call it. And once again, like I just said before, the medium weapon, you have that uniqueness being added in because the Shack had 2 bullets shooting out of it at once with a decent magazine size as well, and it just sounds like an absolute beast, right? And it makes sense when you have these things combined, towards the realm of reality of what Heavy is in the finals too. So again, it kind of shows what Heavy is all about with the Shack, and it's, again, really nice addition. But of course, we've got to talk about the new weapons, okay? I think one of the things is that, I don't know, the sound is going to be nuts. Because every time we've seen the sound of this heavy gun, it just sounds like an absolute goddamn rocket launcher taken off or something. But, we have obviously, like, serious questions, right? So, again, in Alpha Actors videos, we saw a couple of things about the minigun, but we have some questions there. First of all, how many bullets is this minigun going to have, right? I think that's one of the big ones. Is it even going to be a cooldowns type of weapon, right? So, like, for example, the ammo is actually unlimited, but then you have to obviously respect the cooldown on that. Or is it going to have, let's say, like 300, 200, 100 bullets, right? We don't know. And I think that's going to be kind of interesting, too, is to see what is the intentional reason why the minigun is being added. Well, number one, because it's fun, right? Number two, is it going to cause some kind of mix-ups in how Heavy is being played? For example, is the minigun potentially also going to deal a lot of destruction damage in the arena too? Because a lot of the times with a lot of the weapons, you can actually break certain parts of the arena as well. Sometimes it takes a lot of goddamn bullets, but it can happen. So if the minigun is going to be a high RPM, high bullet weapon, well, it's going to be a little bit similar to the KS-23, right? Where, again, you shoot 3 bullets into the KS-23, a wall breaks as well. So we'll have to see how the minigun is going to be released into the game, and kind of how things shape up with that as well. But it looks sick, and I'm very happy for it as well. So TF2 mains, if you're a TF2 main, let me know in the comments, but we rejoice once again. Obviously as well, we have the BRN 180, which I think people, myself was included before, but we were still kind of confusing it with the Honey Badger, but I think it has been pretty much confirmed now that this is a BRN 180 just because of the upper receiver. If you Google BRN 180, you can see the upper receivers are pretty much the same. And this is essentially going to be a rifle on the light class, okay? So it's a rifles, and I'm guessing, obviously, it's a less powerful rifle at range, again, when you compare it to something being offered from medium, for example, right? But being the first AR added for light and a silence rifle, pretty awesome to see, and it looks very, very nice. Finally, and thanks to the teaser, we get what looks like a lever action rifle, which I'm not gonna lie, I said this before, if you guys remember me doing my reviews on the finals, I am really excited because I have been asking for so long to see something similar to like a bolt action rifle on medium, something that is going to be a bit more high risk, high reward gameplay. Your aim is going to be obviously judged, and it's a bit more of a longer range weapon as well, but it can help you in those medium fights. When it gets down to close range, you're in a similar situation to the pike, where again, it's going to be a bit more trickier easier for you, but it's up to you to respect that distance as well. And I'm super excited to see kind of how this lever action rifle is going to be. And again, for the game overall, I think if we look back on Season 5, I do think that Season 5 was a decent success for Embark as well. You know, the community did have at one point a lot of criticisms for the game, and obviously that was when a big percentage of players experienced a lot of issues or latency issues or desync issues with the server. Again, it's kind of annoying because in a way I wish I also had that, but I'm not just gonna lie and say I had it too. Like, if I'm completely honest, I had that issue, latency and desync issues, about 4 times during that like craze. So I couldn't just go out and be like, yo guys, yeah, I'm also lagging as well, my game is bad. Like, I was streaming on Twitch and the servers were pretty much fine for me. However, the good thing is, and this is not about me obviously, it's about the community, the good thing is that mostly, at least in EU1A, the servers have kind of ironed out as well. I still do think there's a couple of issues in the Asia server, unfortunately, and I hope that does get fixed. But at least in my experience with the people I'm talking to in my Twitch chat, a lot of people are saying that the servers are feeling a lot smoother now, so obviously that's great to hear too. Obviously then you have the smaller bugs, which again, they are obviously still valid, the smaller bugs to be fixed, and I'm hoping obviously a couple of those things can be ironed out as well as we head into Season 6. Obviously a lot of the times they do massive bug fixes, so again, we're just onward looking towards the future of the game. So what I'm most excited about this season now, it's something that you probably haven't really thought about in depth because it might not affect you that much, but I'll explain why it could affect you in the future. First of all, we're talking here about the private matches and spectator mode, and it is something that is a really long time coming. Like, no hate to Embark, okay, but the current private match state of the game is probably the worst I've seen in any FPS game. Of course, you know, I'm super grateful for it even being added in, you know, in the first place, and it has kind of revolutionized that side of content creation for myself. But, you know, even the spectator mode is frustrating for organizers, and seeing some improvements in that area as well, it's going to really excel the community side of the game for people taking part. And you might think as well, like, well, Thix, who cares about the community side of the game? I'm not an esports, or I'm not a competitive player, and I actually completely understand your point. What I'm talking about here is more of the casual side of things too. Like, for example, if private matches are improved, well, maybe you and your friends can have a lot more variety in things you want to do. So for example, we can start having the custom games talk, where you could create your own game mode or something like that with your friends, maybe even share that game mode in terms of the in-game client at some point. I don't think that's coming Season 6, you know, and things like that, or even like fun community tournaments being hosted by creators as well, like, you know, a Sledgehammer only tournament or things like that, or maybe a couple of you know, Power Shift tournaments, etc. So, but I think that this season is really going to be in the cards, where Embark are really hitting the tennis ball back in towards the community side of the court in terms of what they're offering for the players. So if they do have a more expansive spectator mode, or maybe a bit more of improvements towards private matches, well, you know, what can we make as a community together for that with the improvements? You know, for example, I'm planning on starting back my game show series again. So if you guys don't remember, I used to do something called the Finals Podium League, where it was more of a casual, competitive kind of league that I would host each week. And I'm kind of now having a lot of thoughts about how I'm doing it, and I'm going to rework it and remake it with some new ideas. So it's not going to be called FPL anymore. It's going to be called the Podium Show. That's right. So hopefully that name there kind of gives you a bit more insights as to what I'm trying to aim for now. But I will have some more information coming on that soon, TM. So if you are excited, you yourself watching this video, you can participate and take part, win prizes as well each week, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Regardless, I'm going to be going off to Sweden very shortly. It's getting late here, but I've got a couple of hours, etc. before I leave, before I head out to Embark HQ. That's right, I'm going to Sweden to experience the finals Season 6 in person and be around the chaos of all the developers as they get towards their releases for the patch. So stay up to date on my YouTube and also my Twitch as well to find out and potentially see some behind-the-scenes content as well. Well, so thank you guys so much for being with me on my journey so far. Here's to Season 6, and hopefully you guys can finish off the last-minute grinding that you might have to do as well in Season 5. Let me know what you are excited for in Season 6 as well in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always. My name is Thix, and I'll see you on the podium.